The Israeli Air Force has carried out a new round of strikes on Iranian-linked targets near the Syrian-Iraqi border. The airstrikes reportedly hit at the Al-Hamadan airport north of the town of Al-Bukamal. Pro-Israeli sources claim that the strike destroyed the HQ of Iranian-backed militias, as well as ammunition and weapon depots. The U-News agency, which is known for its close ties with Lebanon's Hezbollah and Iranian forces in Syria, also shared reports on Israeli airstrikes, but did not confirm them. Since the start of 2019, the Israeli Air Force has conducted over a dozen strikes on supposed Iranian targets near Al-Bukamal. Despite this, the town and facilities around it remain a stronghold of Iranian-backed forces in the border area. On December 5th morning, a large convoy of the Russian military police arrived in the Kamishli airport in northeast Syria. The convoy consisted of several armored vehicles and dozens of trucks, loaded with different supplies and military equipment. It was escorted by attack helicopters. In October, Russia already deployed Mi-8 and Mi-35 helicopters and Pantsir-S air defense systems there. Pro-government sources speculate that the airport is being turned into a Russian military base. Turkish-backed militants will withdraw from the town of Al-Mabrouka, and Syrian army troops will be deployed there under a new deal reached by Moscow and Ankara, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights claimed on December 5th. Russia's state-run news agency Sputnik reported the claim by saying that army troops and Russian military police officers are now preparing to enter the town. Al-Mabrouka is located south of the border town of Ras Al Ain and hosts an electrical substation that was damaged during the recent Turkish-led attack on the region. The Damascus government will likely work to restore it. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham repelled a Syrian army attack on the village of Jalal in southern Idlib, the terrorist group news agency reported on December 5th. According to the report, up to 12 army troops were killed. Nonetheless, no photos or videos to confirm this claim were provided. On December 4th, militants attacked army positions south of the nearby town of al-Tina. The attack was repelled following several hours of heavy clashes.
Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to yahawah, bahasham, yahawashi, bahasham, quadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who are teaching this truth in sincerity. And a shout out to Yakim that's out there on the four quarters of the earth proclaiming this truth. Barak the yahawah, barak the yahawashi, bahasham, quadash, barak atham. So walk in the streets of Babylon the Great and you can just see it. Yeah, you have your places, selling vehicles or whatever, man, but man, do you see Christmas decorations up here? Man, that's all dead. This place is dying. The mirth ain't here anymore. Earlier this year, Shopko and Payless shut down, so that's more jobs gone, and just the places that you can go and get stuff, man. Black Friday was fucking dead, man. Because of course, man, people can't afford that bullshit. They're not even sure where their next check's gonna be, Hometown Buffet also closed earlier this year for no reason too. I mean, it just boom, it's gone. Part of a downsizing event, and nobody was even warned about that. So yeah, just mirth is dying in this place, man. Grinding is ceasing because, of course, they've been outsourced. So yeah, you're not, and normally. All that whole bridge over there be decked with gold and silver Christmas decorations, but it ain't there. And this is what, December 6th? It ain't here. It hasn't been here for some time, because people, Reading, man, we're usually the first to feel it whenever there's a downsizing event, And over there is where Rayleigh's used to be, and it hasn't been a building since then. I mean, that place is for rent, but nobody could afford it, so they haven't built anything there yet. So yeah, man, places are shutting down, and they're doing that on purpose. It's a downsizing event because the bark of the beast, the RFID chip, is right around the corner, So anyhow, yeah. One of my tires went flat, but at least I have that under warranty, so hey, why not just do a video, You know, and don't just do the minimum work, you know. Okay, well, I did my 3 videos this week, so I'm just going to sit. No, I always tried to be diligent, whether I had a place or didn't have a place. Don't got a place right now, man, on somebody else's couch, you know. So, you know, here's a test of faith, you know. See if my trust is going to be in yahawah, bahasham, yahawashi, because we the elect, we ain't going to take that shit, you know. No matter what, you know. And we've been dealing with this stuff all our lives, man, you know. Living for one place or another. This was never our rest, you know. We was never supposed to make it here. You know, we know that the American dream is bullshit. You know, but we were fed those lies, but, you know, all you have to do is walk around and all that, and you can see that's all bullshit. You know, they have no quarter for their own, man. You know. That's why you see panhandlers out there asking you for money. Because of the fact that, no, man, their society, they don't help them. No, man, Bethel Church, the mafia of this town, man, they're rowing the places down, they're fencing up places. Over here used to be a gas station, now that's completely gone. Nothing's happened since then, you know. So, yeah, man, people know that the American dream is dead. You know, and that's a good thing, though, because, and we just can't deal with it too much long. I mean, the faith of the patience of us saints is that this place is going to be destroyed. So that's why we hasten the day like we do. You know, not too far from here is the homeless colonies, which are slowly dying out because, of course, Bethel is constantly you know, putting up fences and all that, because Bethel's where all the Freemasons are, you know, and the police. They run everything, you know. It's not too hard to figure out, you know. And the same people that run Bethel, they used to run another one at Vaca Valley Christian Life Center, you know, back when I lived in Vacaville. And it was the same thing there. They controlled the police, and they had their sphere of influence on everything, and they were using spy drones back then. Of course, man, everybody knew everything that everyone was doing. Total police state, like what we're in now. You know, so, yeah, man, if you were a member of that church, man, they kept a real close eye on you. And what's kind of funny is the head pastor of that church, he ended up committing suicide later because he got caught in his embezzlement. He screwed people out of their homes and everything, man. You know, fucking, you know, took money from everyone, you know. Worse than Jim Baker, and you already know that that clown fucking, you know, he's backing up and running too. So, either way though, you know, just got to stick this out. This is the faith and the patience, man. You know, and our faith and trust is in yahawah, bahasham, yahawashi. Definitely not in what the so-called white man tells us, because, you know, you can pay your rent on time and all that, be a good tenant, and then they can still sell the place out from under you and give you a 60-day notice, you know? But, you know, what's to stop me from doing this work? Nada, you know? So anyhow, you know, just gonna take a look at a few things and still getting this video up, you know, because I know that Tuesday's right around the corner, but, you know, that's a deadline for YouTube. It ain't a deadline for Daily Motion or any other places. So yeah, right over here is a tent. You know, so I'm not going to disturb that, man. I have respect. Yeah, man, you know, lots of people sleeping under a bridge in this place, Babylon. You know, and these Edomites, man, they're feeling it. I mean, you already know about the projects, but now Edomites are living in the projects. Because pretty much the majority of Redding are Edomites. Yeah, you got a few Jakes there, but we Jakes, man, we know what to do. We know how to survive. So, anyhow, I'm going to take a look at some other things going on and then bring the word, the water, you know, the water of life, eating the whole roll.
Which leads me to this article here. You know, I was just talking about Gomer earlier. Turkey opted for Russian S-400 as NATO allies weren't selling similar systems. So they wanted the best defense system. Because of course they know that America is going to turn on them. So they, of course, are turning to Russia to be thou guard unto them. Turkey turned to the Russian-made S-400. Well, what do you think a guard is? That's what these S-400s are for, is a guard. As it didn't succeed in getting air defense systems from its closest NATO allies, including the U.S., France, and Italy, its foreign minister explained. Procuring the S-400s from Moscow has been more of an urgent necessity than a political choice, Turkish chief diplomat Melvat said on Friday at a security conference in Italy. Does Turkey need air defense systems, he asked, receiving an affirmative answer from the panel meeting. Do we have our own? No. Thank God we've been producing more than 70% of what the military needs in Turkey, and we will continue to that end, but we are not a self-sufficient country in a defense industry, not yet, he continued. Did we try to buy from our allies? Yes, for the last 10 years. We wanted to buy Patriots from the United States, but wanted to buy the same things from France and Italy, but we couldn't get them. See? So, that's the allies turning on each other right there. So, this hegemony is, dying out, man. Some NATO members did deploy their Patriot systems on Turkey's soil to protect against incoming threats to the region, but these developments didn't last long, leaving Turkey in a precarious position, the minister recalled. So, again, this is may God be thou guard unto them. So, just another article proving the point, driving that nail. Proving that the Bible prophecies are speaking. Of course, the live coverage is cut off, but just thought you'd like to see this, though. Here's another one, another false flag shooting. So this is like the second one in about a couple days. There was one at Pearl Harbor. Here's another one. False flag shooting in Pensacola. Shooting at Naval Air Station, Pensacola. Live update. Because we know Pearl Harbor is a naval station. I mean, we already know that. And isn't it interesting, though, that today's supposed to be December 6th? Are they trying to...
Good morning, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. We are coming to you with a live update about the shooting this morning at Naval Air...
Yeah, so you know how these things are a piece of shit, especially when you're trying to...
Pensacola. Actually, there's a briefing that they just had. I want to show you that. Is it still going? Well, let me show you. I haven't seen it, so I'm going to start it right now. This is the briefing that they're doing now. Hang on a second here. Let me get this underway here. See where it says Escambia County Sheriff's Office? I think this might still be live, but I'm going to take it from the beginning because I haven't watched it yet. So we'll start this briefing.
They'll probably say they're wrong,
and
right?
we'll go from there. So some of you might have already been watching this. It's still going, I think, but let's just play the briefing.
But even if they don't, they're coming for the guns. Yeah.
Hi, good morning,
they're doing
everybody.
stuff like this deliberately to get the guns off
Naval
the
Air
street.
Station, Pensacola. This morning we had an active shooter incident, approximately 6:30 a.m. We got the call it was an active shooter in one of our buildings. The base is currently shut down. The active shooter has been neutralized. We are working with local law enforcement and with the FBI in our actions afterwards. As I said, the base is shut down. It will be shut down until further notice, until we can understand the situation.
So anyways, I don't know if the audio is good on this, but other things are happening.
My heart goes out to those families.
Place is going down.
The wounded. They're part of the Navy family.
Alright, let's start off by saying barak atha yahawah, bahasham yahawashi, bahasham quadash. Welcome to another live stream. Alright, the name of this one's called Judah and Ephraim, both under the curses. Because you have this misconception out there that all the tribes, all 12 tribes of so-called Negroes, and that's it. They had this misconception that only the so-called Negroes or the so-called Negro tribes, which is comprises of the Southern Kingdom, were the only ones that went through hell, the only ones that went through curses, the only ones that caught any type of hell. They were the only ones that were in captivity. They were the only ones that suffered, violence under the hand of the so-called white man, the Edomites. They were the only ones that were persecuted by Esau. They were the only ones that had a hard time feeding their families. They were the only ones that had a hard time getting jobs. They were the only ones that had a hard time in their relationship with their women. They were the only ones that had drug addictions. They were the only ones that had alcoholic addictions. They were the only ones that suffered, that had to be on food stamps, that had to be looked down upon, stepped upon, and so on and so forth. But that's not true. The so-called Puerto Ricans, since they got into this country, been catching hell too. And even before Judah, Benjamin, and Levi came over to the soils of America, the Northern Kingdom was already catching hell up under the so-called white man, being put in captivity and slavery, going through all type of hell. And this is one of the things that used to piss me off in the world, that Judah would always do that. Like, they would act like they were the only ones that were catching hell. And they would just pretty much just throw us in a corner somewhere, like we wasn't catching hell. Like we was just there going along, getting along, everything was fine and hunky-dory with us. But it wasn't. We were catching just as much hell as you are. And we were catching hell before you even got here. How about that? It's no coincidence that during the time of the so-called civil rights movement, it was Judah in the forefront. You had Ephraim, you had Issachar, you had Gad. Because these people were being persecuted. Why? Because they were Israelites. And they were standing up and trying to do something about their situation and about the situation of their people. But they didn't understand back then that they were Israelites, but they didn't understand that. So when they came together under false pretenses, or they came together not under so much as false pretenses, but they came up under the wrong covering. Matter of fact, let's start off with that. Let's go to, I believe that's Isaiah 31. Nope. Let's try Isaiah 30. Yep. Isaiah chapter 30 verse 1. Woe to the rebellious children. Who are the rebellious children? The children of Israel, saith the Lord, yahawah, bahasham, yahawashi, that take counsel, but not of me, because they've counseled among themselves. They try to set up certain situations. They try to set up religious movements. They try to set up social movements. They try to set up revolutionary movements. But it was all without the Most High. Some of them used the Bible, but still didn't have the full understanding of the Bible. It says, and that cover with the covering. So they have a cover over them. Just like Adam and Eve in the garden, what did they do? They sold themselves fig leaves and aprons. Meaning what? They started to put on the garb of the other nations. Just like you see today, Jake wearing dashikis, or Jake's dressing like the so-called Muslims, or like the so-called, whatever religion they're into, whether it's Buddhist, whatever other religion that Jake gets into, they dress up the part. And this is what happened. They put a cover. They covered themselves with a covering, but not of my spirit, because it wasn't according to the Most High's plans. See, they had on a different covering, when our covering the whole time was yahawah, bahasham, yahawashi. But we lost our way. Scripture said that we would discontinue from our heritage, beginning with once we lost our land, everything else was lost after that. Because after a while we lost our way, and that's a good precept, the brother. The kingdom is within Deuteronomy 28:43. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high. And I have that in the curses which I want to go through the Spirit. And thou shalt come down very low. And this is where we're at. That they may add sin to sin. That walk down to go into Egypt and have not asked at my mouth. So they're not asking at the counsel of the mouth of the Lord. They're asking at the counsel of Egypt or Babylon, or the Middle Persian Empire when they were there, or the Romans or the Greeks, and today under the American government or wherever on the planet they are. scattered to. And this video was inspired through the spirit of Yahawah through a video Elder Apostle Gabar sent me last night. I couldn't really watch it because I was, I was pretty tired. So I was trying to get some rest so I can get up and do a few things that I got to do. So I was watching it today while I was doing my little walk. And when you go to this documentary, it's called 60s in Connecticut. And it's pretty much a documentary on prosperity and how Esau in the 60s, they were doing really good. They had nice homes. They had, nice jobs, and their women would stay at home, and they had cars, and they had this and that, and prosperity was great among Esau. But then when you get to the 7 minute and 45 second mark, that's where Jake, it says, but not everybody was benefiting from this great economic growth. And they showed Jake and Ephraim, the so-called Negroes and the so-called Puerto Ricans, moving into Connecticut in the 60s into these dilapidated areas that Esau fled from. Because at this point, all of the factories, the manufacturing factories that were here that made this state so great started moving out. So Judah was catching hell, they couldn't find jobs. Ephraim was catching hell, they couldn't find jobs. Judah couldn't feed their families. Ephraim couldn't feed their families. They turned to drugs, they turned to alcohol. They turned to all different type of shit just to be able to survive. They were at the bottom of the totem pole together. Because, let's go from there to the book of Isaiah, chapter 3. And verse, just bear with me while I find this verse. I'm sorry, not Isaiah, Jeremiah 3, my bad. Jeremiah 3 and 18. In those days the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel, and they shall come together out of the land of the north to a land so like I think I might have skipped it. It might be in Jeremiah 50. Let's see something. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, Jeremiah 50 and 33. Thus saith the Lord power of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. And that's what you see. When you watch this documentary, you watch other documentaries that kept speaking about the so-called Negroes, so-called African American, which is a tribe of Judah, and the so-called Puerto Ricans, which is a tribe of Ephraim. And they were both in these dilapidated situations. They were both in these bad conditions. They were both catching hell equally. You see? So this is proof that they are Israelites, because the scripture said, let's go straight to the point and then we'll jump up above that. Deuteronomy 28 and 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee. And we're gonna examine some of these curses, and shall pursue thee. What does it mean to come upon thee? Meaning they're gonna be on you wherever you go, and shall pursue thee. Meaning if you live in Connecticut and you live in a ghetto and you happen to be a so-called Negro, Latino, Native American Indian, and you move to another state, these curses will follow you wherever you go. No escaping this. Like the Beating Us song that they did. No escaping this. It's true. You can't escape the curses. It says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed. Meaning what? Destructured. And what is the main thing that destroyed Jake? Well, let's go real quick. You know what? Let me keep that, because I may read that again. Let's go to the book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for what? For lack of knowledge. So what destroyed Jake? The lack of knowledge. Why did we go into captivity? Because we forsook the Lord. What is that? Isaiah 5:13. It says, therefore my people are gone into captivity because they have no knowledge. And their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. So the honorable men, the ones that are supposed to be the leaders, at one time had no wisdom. They had nothing to feed the flock with. So what did they do? They turned to beating the flock, to cheating the flock, so that they can live better lives, so they can be in a better position. Meanwhile, the flock was suffering, and they still weren't really being fed with the truth. And their multitude dried up with thirst. Why? Because there was no living waters flowing out in these streets back then. I mean, there were, but it was slowly but surely coming up. It was on a come up. So going back, it says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed. And we were destructed. We were brought down to the lowest place where a human could go. Let's go to Daniel chapter 9 and verse. Just want to get straight to the point. I'm not sure what the exact verse is. Let me just type this in. Alright. Here, Daniel 9:12. And he hath confirmed his words which he spake against us and against our judges that judge us. What is that? These curses that were to come upon us, by bringing upon us a great evil, for under the whole heaven hath not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem. So we caught hell. So these curses came upon us and pursued us and overtook us until we be destroyed, until we were destroyed. Just like if you go to war and you have one side that's getting the better of the other side, and the other side starts fleeing, and then the army that was winning starts chasing them and beating them down and capturing them. They overthrew them and then did what? Destroyed them. So these curses attacked us like a military from the Lord. This was like the curses are like another army of the Most High that came with they came prepared, and they kicked us in the ass. So-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. You talk about doing bad. You look in the reservation camps where the so-called North American Indian are. They're living worse than any ghetto or barrio out there. And this was their land at one time. They're living in worse conditions than you are living in the projects or in the barrios. How about that? They're almost living like if they were in a third world country. They're so poor out there. It's so poor out there that they got a result of going to the store, the little bit of money they get from the government, and buying hair products that have alcohol in them to drink it just so that they can get high. I'm talking about the so-called Negroes are the only ones that caught hell in this country and the only ones that went into captivity. That shit got to stop, man. That shit got to stop. It says, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And that's the bottom line. Because we didn't do what the Lord said, he kicked us in the ass. And when you watch this documentary, it doesn't really go a whole lot into Jake and Ephraim, but it does, have a little here and there. Because pretty much it was a documentary on Connecticut in the 60s. And this is just in one state. This was happening throughout all the different states where Judah and Ephraim were. Because even in Chicago, you had Ephraimites in Chicago. Of course, you had Judahites in Chicago. You had Issacharites in Chicago, which they call Chicanos. And they were gathering together, revolutionary type individuals to speak against the injustices of the government upon their people. Meanwhile, not realizing that we were all one people. And I'm pretty sure that some of them understood then we're in the same struggle together. But not all of them. So let's go back to Deuteronomy 28. Let's go to the 15th verse now. It says, But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And you see in it. You see it all throughout the ghettos and the barrios, all throughout America, all throughout Canada, Central, South America, the Caribbean islands, and wherever Jake is at. You see him catching nothing but hell. And shalom to the Akim on the common boards. They catching nothing but hell. It says, Cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field. Every city you go in America, let's just deal with America. I'm not even dealing with Canada and Central America, South America, Mexico, the Caribbean islands, and throughout the world where Jake is at. Every city you go to, there's what? Slums, ghettos, barrios. And who's up in there? So-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians. Now you're starting to have Esau catching hell, and some of them so-called white trash might even be Jakes. Because some of them are suffering the curses. But then again, we're at the point now where the curses are starting to be lifted off of Jake a little bit and coming up on the other nations too. And cursed shalt thou be in the field. What's the field? The field is the world. Throughout the four corners of the earth. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. What is the basket in your store? The basket is your pockets. Every time you try to save some money, what happens? Something happens where money dwindles. Sometimes you have to choose between paying bills or eating. And cursed shall thou be in the field, meaning in the world, and thy store represents what? Your bank accounts. If Jake has bank accounts, a lot of them barely have anything in there. They just got enough money in there to keep the thing open, and maybe use their card to pay bills with. It says, Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, which is what? The children. And the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. This is when Jake was sharecroppers. You know, you got down in the islands. You know, there was a time when there was few storms that came through, and the working that they were doing out there in the fields, they couldn't do shit. So what happened? They had to ship them out of Puerto Rico and ship them all the way over through the United States into the Polynesian islands, Hawaii and all of them places. That's why you got a lot of them Polynesians out there, so-called Polynesians, that have Spanish last names. Because a lot of Ephraimites were sent out there. And what do you think they did with those women? They had sex with them and had children. Cursed shall be thou when thou comest in, and cursed shall thou be when thou goest out. When you're born, you're cursed. When you die, you're cursed. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke. And that's all that happened. You watch that movie, Dead Presidents. You know, in that movie, you see nothing but the hell that Jake was going through. You know? And you see who was there, who was the main two characters there? Who were the main two tribes? Judah and Ephraim. They were doing so bad. What they did, they got together to rob a bank. Because they were catching hell. Together. And all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do. So everything that you do in this country, in this society, the Lord is going to put cursings upon it, vexations upon it, and rebuke. You might be the best carpenter out there, but there's days you go to the job and shit ain't working right. You know, you build a wall, the shit come out crazy. You cut something, the shit don't come out right. You've done this shit 100 times, and then you're trying to do it that day, it just ain't coming out right. It's just a fucked up day, but that's those curses. Until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly. And that's what happens. We've been destroyed. That's why a lot of Jakes turn to what? To drugs and alcohol. To escape. It's a form of escapism. Because sometimes, you know, the mind can't handle this certain situation. So what do Jake do? They turn to the bottle on the shelf. Or sometimes, you know, they turn to drugs. Until thou perish quickly. And you see a lot of Jakes dying early. You know, lung cancer, colon cancer, pancreatic cancer. Getting shot by the cops. You know, so on and so forth. Dying of heart attacks. because of the wickedness of thy doings. But this is why, whereby thou hast forsaken me. So we forsook the Lord, so the Lord forsook us. But barak atha yahawah bahasham yahawashi, he left the remnant, and now we're coming back to please the Lord to the best of our ability. Now let's jump down to the 29th verse. And thou shalt grope at noonday. You know, roaming aimlessly. Did not the Lord say that you will be in the corners? Jake would be on the corners, you know, acting wild like animals, pretty much. There's no coincidence that the so-called Negroes and Latinos are the ones up on them corners like that. The so-called North American Indians, so on and so forth. As a blind gropeth in darkness. Why? Because you're not technically blind, but spiritually you are. Talking about this cipher and that cipher, you know, and talking about the 5%ers and talking about Islam and the Moors and, you know, Egyptology and this different crazy knowledge that you have that you got from some crazy individual. Bugged out like wild bulls in a net. I don't understand. What are you saying? African, Judah, indigenous, Tenchai. What are you talking about? I don't understand what you're saying. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And you see, Jake ain't prospering in their ways. The only ones that prosper to a certain degree are what? The ones that sell out. And even that is not looking too good for them. Because they're noticing that the grass is not greener on the other side. Because they have to do a lot of things to maintain that. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. See? No man shall buy thee. Does that sound familiar? No man shall save thee. It has a different Hebrew word here. But the bottom line is the same effect. The same thought. Now let's go... Right here, look, at 31st verse at the end. And thou shalt have none to rescue them. But it's just saying it in different, there's different points. No man shall save thee. None shall rescue them. No man shall buy thee. Meaning that no one is going to be able to save you from your situation, redeem you from that situation. Verse 33, the fruit of thy land and the fruit and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. So in everything you do, you're oppressed and crushed always. Who has the greatest talent? Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians. What happens? Esau has the funds and the money and the studios and the different things, and they exploit them. But who gets rich? Esau. Esau gets rich, and Jake, they'll do okay, but they got all the talent, and they getting the scraps from Longshank's table. Inside joke. You know, here it is, you doing all the work, you got all the creativity, and you getting the least money out of everybody else. Why is that? Is it because we're the minority? Inside joke. And thou shalt only be oppressed and crushed always, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. You know what it is? You busting your goddamn ass all fucking week. You even put in overtime. And then when you get your check, you see that they took a whole fucking bunch of money out that check. You say, man, I would have been better off just working the regular weeks, an hour in the week, than doing overtime. Because it seems like when you work overtime, they take a whole lot more out of your check. Madness. But that's it. So that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. Verse 37, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. Verse 43, the stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. And this is what's happened. This is why we're in this low condition. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. What did the scripture say? That they shall lick the sores of Lazarus. That's these nations, you know, that come and take the little bit that we do have, to take it. Setting up different stores and different, you know, whether it's grocery stores or restaurants, you know, clothing stores. They take the little bit that Jake has. He shall be the head and thou shalt be the tail. And we are the fucking tail. We're the laughing stock. We're the bywords and the proverbs. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for what? For a sign and for a wonder. So when we watch this documentary, which I put in the description box, is Judah and Ephraim catching hell together. The curses upon them. And those curses will serve as a what? As a sign and a wonder. A sign and a wonder for what? That these are the Israelites, and upon thy seed forever. And that's forever is to what? So the Lord takes the curses off of us and puts it on our enemies, pursuant to Deuteronomy the 30th chapter. Because thou servest not the Lord thy power with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things, for everything that he gave us. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. So whatever we want, we have to go to Esau for it. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. And Judah suffered the worst part of that yoke, but you did have Native American Indians and so-called Latinos that had yokes put upon them also. Not on a scale that Judah had, but still in all, some of them did have that. You know? So pretty much, that's if we could keep going on. We could, end it there. You could go, and once you brothers watch this, if you get a chance to watch it, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. There's feminist movement and a whole kind of stuff you could go into in this whole documentary. Like I said, I put it in the description box, so if brothers want to watch it and do videos off it, knock yourself out, more edification. So with that, I pray that your brothers have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom. He shall be the head and thou shalt be the tail, and we are the fucking tail. We're the laughing stock. We're the bywords and the proverbs. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for what? For a sign and for a wonder. So when we watch this documentary, which I put in the description box, is Judah and Ephraim catching hell together. The curses upon them. And those curses will serve as a what? As a sign and a wonder.
So you can see the fulfillment of this right around the corner as we're beginning to see the first stages of this, Revelation 17, because we're starting to see alliances now making deals with Magog and with Moab, and with Persia, all the enemies of the so-called West. That even Western states, aka the beast, are now starting to make deals with Magog and Persia and Gomer and all them, man. These were all allies. So, he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the horse sitteth, and peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, So, pretty much, what's happening, though, is that they're starting to break away, Macron of France recently just said, like within the last couple of years, he says we need a better leader than America, and was looking right at Putin because, these so-called allies, man, they're beginning to hate the whore. Next verse, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, they shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. Ultimately, when they fire the missiles upon this place. We're seeing the beginning stages of them breaking away from the whore, and getting away from the hegemony, because, of course, they still want to get merchandise from Iran. And it's cheaper and easier to get oil from the Persian Gulf through Iran than it is through Saudi Arabia, so they've been kind of breaking away from that. And America, has been putting tariffs on them, so they're tired of that. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, they shall hate the whore and make her desolate, naked, shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, by way of them nuclear missiles. For Yahawah have put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree to give their kingdom
unto the beast until the words of Yahawah shall be fulfilled. You know, and that part's going into when they, you know, will all agree in the same hour to try to fight yahawashi and the angels. So that it's going into that a little bit, but at the same time they're going to be destroying Babylon. And the woman which thou sawest is the great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. You know, for a long time America has ruled, you know. It's been known as the American Empire. You've had your Ottoman Empire, you've had your Roman Empire, and we've been in the revised Roman Empire. But America's had its own separate empire, which they've been the leader for a very long time. But now they're starting to break away from that. And when Rome breaks up like that, you know that Rome's about to fall, just like it did the first time and just like it's doing now. So I hope all this has been edifying, like everything else, though. I'm going to keep on teaching this till we can no longer. Then we're just going to go ahead and feast on these words, man. The words of Yahawah, bahasham, yahawashi. And we pray we be among the elect that be delivered from this place. This place has got to go. Shalom. Barak of the Yahawah, bahasham, yahawashi, bahasham, quadash, wa abab abal. Barak atham, the hopeful elect.